Too long didn't read Spanish verbs. Today we're talking about the difference between AR, ER, and IR verbs. Last time you learned that a verb has two parts. It has a stem and then it has the ending. What we're going to look at today is that there are not just one type of ending, but there's actually three different types of endings.
AR, ER, and IR.
If you're looking at verbs as a whole in Spanish, you need to divide them up into three parts. AR, ER, and IR. Let's take a look. So we know that there are three different types of verbs that end in AR, ER, or IR. We've already gone over an ER verb, and that was leer. The endings for ER verbs are O, S, E, hemos, en. And each of those boxes corresponds to a specific subject. So this is the I or the yo. This is the you or the tú. This is the he, she, it, or the él, ella, usted. This is the we, or the nosotros, nosotras. This is the they, the ellos, ellas, ustedes. Let's plug in what we know about the verb leer. So now let's take a look at the endings of our AR verbs. The AR verbs are very similar to the ER verbs, so we're going to change those E's that I've underlined into A's. So here are the ending for AR verbs. What pattern do you notice? That's right. So for verbs that end in AR, they have as, a, amos, and an. And for verbs that end in ER, es, e, hemos, and en. So let's put an example AR verb up here, and we're going to use the verb to look. Mira. Because I know the stem and the ending, the only thing I need to do now is just fill in the stem over and over again. So mir, 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 mir. So those are the forms for I look, you look, he, she, it looks, we look, they look. Miro, miras, mira, miramos, mira. The endings for our AR and our ER verbs are the same, except we're just going to change that A to an E. And we keep the O. Now take a look at the endings for IR verbs, and I want you to tell me what the difference is between ER verbs and IR verbs. So the only difference between ER verbs and IR verbs is that the nosotros, or the we form, has an I instead of an E. It's going to be really helpful to refer to verbs as AR, ER, or an IR because we're going to see a lot of different patterns in terms of the verb endings, as well as the stems, and sometimes they'll change as well. So let's do an example of an IR verb. And we're going to use the verb vivir, which means to live. So I know my stem. The only thing I need to do now is just fill in my stem next to those verb endings. The forms of the verb vivir, to live, are vivo, I live, vives, you live, vive, he, she, it lives, vivimos, we live, and viven, they live. Everything we see in green are verb stems. It's the beginning part of the verb. Everything we see in red are verb endings, and they correspond to AR, ER, or IR endings. There's a pattern in all of the endings. They go O, as, a, amos, an for AR, O, es, e, hemos, en for ER, and O, es, e, imos, en for IR verbs. We created rectangles with 6 boxes to show what the different conjugations are depending on the subject that we want. Too long didn't read Spanish verbs, looking at AR, ER, and IR verbs. So you learned that a verb has two different parts. The stem, nope,